Welcome to the deep dive. It is fantastic to have you with us today.
Yeah, really glad to be here.
So I want you to take a second and just think about the routine you went through this morning. Think about the applications you've already opened on your phone or, your laptop today.
Right, just the everyday stuff.
Exactly. Maybe you checked your email while drinking your coffee, or maybe you edited a quick video clip to post on social media, or perhaps you logged into some project management software to catch up on what your team did overnight.
Pretty standard morning for most of us.
Yeah. Now ask yourself, how many of those applications do you actively think of as AI apps?
I'm guessing for most people the answer is probably none.
Right. If you're like most people, the answer is zero. You just think of them as your email, your video editor, and your work dashboard. Well, today we are going to completely upend how you view your digital environment.
We really are. The data we're looking at today changes everything.
Our mission for this deep dive is to explore the brand new, highly anticipated 6th edition of Andreessen Horowitz's Top 100 Gen AI Consumer Apps Report.
And this data just dropped right here in March 2026.
It did. And it paints a picture of a world that has shifted right under our feet.
It's a phenomenal piece of research. I mean, it truly serves as a mirror for where we are in this specific technology cycle.
Yeah, it's not just another list.
Exactly. When we look at the data compiled in these sources, we aren't just looking at a leaderboard of trendy new startups. We're looking at a structural, fundamental rewiring of everyday consumer behavior.
It really feels that big.
It is. The way humans interact with computers has changed more in the last 36 months than it did in the previous decade.
And the core premise we're exploring today is that the very definition of an AI app has fundamentally transformed. I mean, think back to just 3 years ago.
Right, the landscape is totally different.
It was. The first edition of this list came out, and the narrative was straightforward. You had ChatGPT for text, you had Midjourney for images, you had character AI for entertainment.
You went to a specific destination just to use artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it was an event. You made a conscious choice. Today, the data shows that AI is hiding in plain sight. It's deeply embedded in the tools you rely on every single day, and you might not even realize it's there.
That's the real shift. It's become ambient.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we get into the specific trends and the companies fighting for dominance, could you just lay out the data landscape for us?
Sure thing.
When we talk about a top 100 list, where are these numbers actually coming from, and why should we trust them?
That is a crucial starting point.
Yeah.
To ground our entire conversation in the facts, the research team at Andreessen Horowitz, often referred to as A16 ZAS, compiles this list using two primary distinct metrics.
Okay, what's the first one?
For web rankings, they are looking at unique monthly visits, and they pull that data from a platform called SimilarWeb. For this report, the snapshot is as of January 2026.
Got it. And the second metric?
Then, for the mobile app side of things, they rank by monthly active users, or MAUs, utilizing data from Sensor Tower, also capturing that January 2026 window.
Why the split, though? Why not just lump it all together into one big score?
Because human behavior is context-dependent. This dual approach is vital.
How so?
Well, the way you use artificial intelligence sitting at a desk on a multi-monitor desktop setup during your workday is vastly different from how you use it while standing on a crowded subway train holding your phone in one hand.
Oh, that makes total sense.
The web data tends to capture more intense, professional, or complex workflows. The mobile data captures immediacy, entertainment, and on-the-go utility. By separating them, the researchers can see the nuances and adoption.
That makes perfect sense. And just to set the scale here for you listening, this isn't some niche report circulating among Silicon Valley insiders.
Not at all.
We are talking about data that reflects the daily, ingrained habits of billions of people across the globe. The sheer volume of human interaction we are going to analyze today is unprecedented. It changes how we work, how we create, and literally how we interface with the global internet.
It really does touch almost every digital interaction we have now.
Let's dive right into the first major revelation from the research, which is this profound disappearance of the AI first boundary. The report notes that the dividing line between what constitutes an AI company and what is just regular software has completely evaporated.
What's fascinating here is how much of an evolution this is from a philosophical standpoint.
Oh, definitely.
In previous editions of this report, the researchers had very strict criteria. An app only made the lift if it was born entirely out of generative AI. It had to be an AI-native product.
Right, it had to be built from the ground up as an AI tool.
Exactly. But for this 6th edition, they explicitly state they had to fundamentally broaden their entire methodology. They realized that if they strictly adhered to that old definition, they'd be completely ignoring where the actual volume of AI usage is happening today.
Because if they only looked at pure AI companies, they'd be missing the real story of human adoption.
As I see.
Let's ground this in some real-world examples from the data. Take CapCut.
Oh, CapCut is a perfect example.
Right. If you, or maybe your teenage kids, have ever posted a stylized video online, you probably know CapCut. It is a video editing application that currently boasts 736 million monthly active mobile users. 736 million.
Which is an astronomical figure for a creative tool.
It is. But the crucial detail the report highlights is that CapCut's absolute most popular features, the tools actually driving that engagement, are entirely AI-driven.
Yeah, it's not the basic timeline cutting they're using.
No, we are talking about their one-touch background removal, the dynamic visual effects that track your body movements, the auto-captioning that translates your speech in real time, and their new text-to-video generation tools.
But people don't open CapCut thinking, I'm going to go prompt a generative AI model now.
Exactly. They just think, I want to make this video of my dog look professional for my feed.
What is occurring here is a massive psychological shift in the consumer base.
Yeah.
Mainstream users are no longer going out of their way to experiment with novel technology.
They just want to get things done.
Right. They're simply trying to accomplish a specific task.
Yeah.
They want to edit a video, design a promotional flyer, or summarize a long PDF. The artificial intelligence is now meeting them exactly where they already are. We see this brilliantly executed with Canva as well.
Oh yeah, Canva's everywhere.
The report extensively covers how Canva, the graphic design platform, has built its entire current growth engine around its magic suite of AI tools.
I use Canva all the time, and it's seamless. You're designing a presentation, you realize the photo you uploaded doesn't quite fit the aspect ratio, and you just click a button called Magic Expand.
And it just works.
Yeah, it uses an image generation model to paint in the missing background perfectly. You don't think about the neural network running in the cloud, you just think, oh good, the picture fits now.
Exactly. It removes the cognitive load of understanding the technology.
Yeah.
And when we look at workplace productivity, the financial metrics in this report regarding Notion are incredibly telling.
Yes, the Notion data. For those who might not use it, Notion is a very popular workspace and note-taking application.
A staple for a lot of remote teams.
Definitely. But the numbers attached to their AI features are staggering. The report states their paid AI attach rate surged from 20% to over 50% in just one single year.
Let's break down what that means. An attach rate in software refers to the percentage of customers who buy a core product and then choose to pay extra for an add-on service. So of all the businesses and individuals paying for Notion's standard service, over half of them are now voluntarily paying an additional fee specifically to have AI features embedded in their documents.
I want to push back on that slightly, though.
Sure.
Are people really actively choosing to pay for AI? Or are software companies just forcibly bundling it into their premium subscription tiers so users have no choice? Like, is it genuine demand or just clever packaging?
It is a fair question, and certainly bundling plays a role in enterprise software. However, the report indicates this particular metric for Notion represents an active opt-in.
So they are choosing it.
Yes. Users are finding enough tangible value in having the AI summarize their meeting notes, rewrite their project proposals, and organize their databases that they're willing to open their wallets for it specifically. The result is that AI-related revenue now makes up roughly half of Notion's entire annual recurring revenue, or ARR.
Half of their total recurring revenue. For a company that started just as a blank digital notepad.
Yeah.
That is a tectonic shift in a business model.
It is the textbook definition of the invisible AI adoption curve. Think about the friction involved in the old way of doing things.
It's a copy and pasting.
Exactly. If AI is a separate destination, you have to open a new browser tab, log into a chatbot, copy your messy meeting notes, write a prompt asking the bot to summarize them, copy the output, go back to your workspace and paste it in.
It's exhausting just saying it out loud.
What companies like Notion, Canva, and CapCut realized is that if you eliminate that friction, if the AI just quietly lives inside the text box, you are already typing in adoption skyrockets.
It just becomes part of the flow.
The value proposition transitions from, come look at this novel scientific breakthrough, to, let me quietly save you 3 hours of tedious formatting today.
I want you, the listener, to pause and reflect on your own digital habits this week. Think about the applications you have relied on.
You're probably using it more than you think.
Are you utilizing machine learning without even registering it? Are you letting your smartphone's camera app auto-adjust the lighting in your photos? Or having your grammar and tone corrected by a silent algorithm running in the background of your email client?
The answer is almost certainly yes.
Because according to the sheer volume of data in this report, you absolutely are. The mainstreaming of this technology is effectively complete, and it didn't arrive in the form of a walking sci-fi robot. It arrived as a helpful button inside the software you already use.
Which perfectly sets the stage for understanding the moves of the massive technology giants.
The big players.
Because while this intelligence is disappearing into everyday applications, the companies building the foundational models are fighting a brutal high-stakes war to be the underlying brain powering all of it.
And that brings us to the absolute elephant in the room. We cannot talk about AI adoption without talking about the staggering scale of ChatGPT.
The numbers are just wild.
The data here is, well, it's hard to even wrap your head around. ChatGPT is still a titan that dominates the landscape. The report notes that it has grown by 500 million weekly active users in a single 12-month period.
500 million.
To reach 900 million weekly active users today. Let me just repeat that to let the scale sink in. 900 million people use ChatGPT every single week.
To contextualize that number, we are talking about roughly 1 in every 9 human beings on planet Earth interacting with a single piece of software every 7 days.
It's unbelievable. Think about the adoption curve of previous technologies.
They don't even compare.
They really don't. It took decades for the telephone to reach that kind of penetration. It took years for smartphones. ChatGPT has done it in essentially 3.5 years.
The sheer physics of maintaining that kind of user growth while also handling the massive computational load required to process hundreds of millions of complex generative queries daily is nearly unprecedented in the history of computer science.
Just keeping the servers from catching fire must be a full-time job.
The server infrastructure alone is a marvel, and the dominance is clear across the metrics. ChatGPT is currently 2.7 times larger on the web than its closest competitor, which is Google's Gemini, and it is 2.5 times larger on mobile.
But, and this is a very big but, the report makes it clear that the challengers are not just rolling over.
No, they're fighting hard.
Gemini and Anthropic's Claude are making serious strategic moves. While they might be smaller in total raw volume compared to OpenAI, they are seeing explosive growth in the metric that actually pays the server bills, paid subscriptions.
That's where the real business is.
In the United States market, Claude saw over 200% year-over-year growth in paid subscribers. Gemini hit 258% growth. And what I found so compelling in the data is this behavior the researchers call multi-tenanting.
Yes, multi-tenanting is a critical concept right now. The report points out that a full 20% of ChatGPT users are also actively using Gemini in any given week.
They are shopping around. But why? If ChatGPT is so dominant and capable, why are 1 in 5 of its users bothering to open up a competitor's tool?
Because the models have developed distinct personalities and specific strengths.
Distinct personalities?
Well, functional strengths, really. A software developer might use Claude because it currently has a reputation for writing slightly cleaner code or managing larger context windows.
Okay, that makes sense.
That same developer might use Gemini because it integrates flawlessly with their Google Workspace, and then use ChatGPT for creative brainstorming. Users are treating these models like different employees in an office, assigning them tasks based on their perceived strengths.
And that multi-tenanting behavior is exactly what keeps executives at OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic awake at night. They absolutely do not want you treating them like interchangeable contractors.
Right, they want loyalty.
They want to lock you into their specific ecosystem. But how do you actually achieve lock-in when your competitors are constantly releasing new models that are just as smart as yours?
That is the core strategic challenge. It is no longer just about who has the absolute smartest foundational model in a vacuum.
Because they all kind of level out eventually.
Exactly. The benchmark scores, how well a model passes a bar exam or a math test, are becoming less relevant to the average consumer. The new moat is something called context compounding.
Context compounding. Let's break that down for someone who doesn't live and breathe tech strategy.
Think of it like a relationship with a local professional, say a tailor or a barber.
Okay.
You might have gone to the same barber for 5 years. A new barber could open up a shop across town, and technically, they might be 5% more skilled with a pair of scissors.
But you wouldn't switch.
No, because your current barber knows exactly how you like your haircut, they know about your family, they know you prefer silence over small talk,
Yeah.
the switching costs are too high. You aren't going to leave because of the accumulated history.
That is a great analogy.
The AI companies are trying to build that exact dynamic. The more an artificial intelligence knows about you, the better it works for you.
It's building a profile of how you work.
Precisely. If you have spent a year interacting with a specific model, linking it to your private calendar, having it draft hundreds of emails so it learns your specific tone of voice, and giving it context on your ongoing long-term projects, that AI becomes infinitely more valuable to you than a brand new, slightly smarter model released by a competitor that starts with a blank slate.
You'd have to teach the new one all over again.
And no one wants to do that. The report provides evidence that this strategy is working. The data shows that sessions per user per month are climbing steadily across the board, particularly for Gemini and ChatGPT. People are returning more frequently because the tool is getting more highly personalized to their specific lives.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. When you read through this section of the A16's report, observing the different approaches these companies are taking to build that lock-in, it feels exactly like reading history.
It's very reminiscent of past tech cycles.
It feels like the early days of the mobile operating system wars, when Apple's iOS and Google's Android were fighting for dominance. You had two completely different philosophies on how to build a digital ecosystem. We are seeing that exact same dynamic play out right now between OpenAI's ChatGPT and Anthropic's Claude.
The integration layer, which is essentially the new equivalent of the App Store, is the primary battleground. Both companies have launched ecosystems to let users and third-party developers build workflows.
Right.
OpenAI has GPTs, and Anthropic has what they call MCP integrations.
Wait, let's pause on that for a second. For our listeners who aren't software engineers, what exactly is an MCP integration?
It stands for Model Context Protocol. Without getting bogged down in the technical weeds, think of it like a highly secure universal adapter plug.
The universal adapter, okay.
It allows Claude, the AI model, to securely reach into your company's private internal databases, like your Slack channels, your secure Google Drive, or your local coding environment, read the data it needs to answer your question, and then pull back out, all without messing up the underlying plumbing or violating security protocols.
So it's a way for the AI to talk to your other software securely. Got it. But if we look at what these two companies are actually integrating with, their strategies diverge wildly.
It couldn't be more different.
ChatGPT is clearly making a massive, aggressive play to be the ultimate consumer super app. Sam Altman, the CEO, has explicitly stated their goal is to bring AI to billions of people. They are testing advertising models.
Going for absolute scale.
Yeah, they are pushing a sign-in with ChatGPT identity layer, hoping to replace those sign-in with Google buttons you see everywhere. If you look at their app ecosystem, it is heavily, almost exclusively, consumer-focused.
Very mainstream apps.
We're talking about deep integrations with Expedia for booking flights, Instacart for ordering weekly groceries, Zillow for browsing real estate, MyFitnessPal for tracking daily calories. They want to be the friendly front door to the internet for the average person on the street.
Whereas Anthropic is taking an entirely different route with Claude. They appear intensely focused on the prosumer and the high-value enterprise worker.
The power user.
Exactly. If you examine the exclusive integrations Claude is securing, you will not find grocery delivery apps. You find heavy-duty financial data terminals like PitchBook. You find massive enterprise data infrastructure platforms like Snowflake and Databricks. You find dense scientific and medical research repositories like PubMed.
So it's all business.
Anthropic is positioning Claude as the ultimate professional work engine. They seem perfectly willing to cede the consumer flight booking and recipe-generating space to OpenAI in exchange for dominating highly lucrative, complex enterprise workflows where companies are willing to pay a premium.
I have to ask, though, is it dangerous for Anthropic to ignore the consumer? Like, if ChatGPT gets everyone using it for their groceries, won't those same people just demand to use it at work, too? It feels risky to let your competitor own the cultural mindshare.
It is a calculated risk. The enterprise software market is traditionally where the most reliable, sticky, and high-margin revenue exists.
That's where the real money is.
Anthropic is betting that a specialized, highly secure, deeply integrated professional tool will command a price point and a loyalty that consumer applications simply cannot match. It is a classic B2B versus B2C strategic divide.
It is a stark contrast in vision. So if we take a step back and look at the whole tech landscape, what does this race to be the default mean for everyone else?
Well, if ChatGPT successfully executes this super app strategy, if it becomes the primary starting point for booking your vacations, buying your food, and checking the news, it fundamentally stops being just a chat window.
It becomes everything.
It becomes the internet's default operating environment. The implications for the rest of the technology sector are profound. You stop navigating to individual websites. You don't go to a travel aggregator. You just tell ChatGPT you want to go to London.
And it just handles it.
The AI interacts with the web on your behalf, extracts the data, and presents you with the options. That mechanism severely threatens the foundational business models of traditional search engines, affiliate marketing sites, travel aggregators, and really, the entire open browsable web as we have known it for 30 years.
That is a structural paradigm shift in how information and commerce flow. And speaking of massive structural shifts, let's pivot our focus to the physical map of the world, because the next major theme from this 2026 report is the rapid, undeniable geopolitical splintering of artificial intelligence adoption.
This is perhaps one of the most critical developments for the future of global technology.
Because we used to think of the internet as borderless, right?
Exactly. For a very long time, the internet, especially the mobile app ecosystem, felt somewhat like a single unified global monolith. A hit app in Silicon Valley would quickly become a hit app in Europe and eventually spread globally. But the map of artificial intelligence is fracturing at an incredible speed.
It's breaking apart.
The data shows we are essentially looking at three distinct, walled-off digital ecosystems.
The similar web and sensor tower data lays it out so clearly. You have the Western developed tools. This includes ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and the research engine Perplexity. They all share the exact same top user markets: the United States, India, Brazil, the United Kingdom, and Indonesia.
Very consistent across those platforms.
But the A16Z report explicitly highlights a glaring absence. These Western tools have essentially zero measured mainstream usage in China or Russia. Zero.
To understand why this is happening, we have to look at the macro policy environment. This geographical divide is not a function of consumer preference.
It's not that they don't want to use them.
No, it is fundamentally a function of state regulation and international policy. Over the last several years, Western governments have implemented stringent technology sanctions that heavily restrict the export and operation of U.S.-built advanced AI models and the underlying compute hardware in Russia.
Right.
Conversely, China has maintained and expanded strict data localization, security, and censorship laws. These laws require AI providers to register algorithms with the state and ensure all data processing happens on domestic servers subject to local regulation. Western companies generally cannot, or choose not to, comply with those requirements.
It's the ultimate example of the phrase, nature abhors a vacuum. If the massive Western tech companies cannot operate in those regions, the demand for the technology doesn't just vanish. Someone else is going to step up and provide it.
Exactly. And the report highlights the rise of local players in a major way. First, there's a fascinating anomaly called DeepSeek.
Yeah, let's talk about DeepSeek.
DeepSeek is incredibly interesting from a data perspective. It is essentially the only true bridge model operating globally right now. When you look at its web traffic, it is uniquely and almost evenly split across users in China, Russia, and the United States.
It's the one app that seems to cross all the geopolitical borders. But the really striking data point in this section of the report is Russia emerging as what the researchers term a third pole of AI development.
That was a huge shift in the data.
Prior to this sixth edition, Russia barely registered as a distinct self-sustaining AI market on these global lists. Now, the data is staggering. The Russian tech giant Yandex has an AI assistant built into their browser called Alice.
And its growth has been massive.
Alice has hit 71 million monthly active users. That volume makes it a top 10 global mobile AI product. Additionally, a product called GigaChat, built by Sberber, which is Russia's largest bank, has debuted strongly on the global web usage list.
What we are observing here is a pattern of intense, forced innovation.
Because they had no other choice.
Right. The international sanctions created a total void in the Russian consumer and enterprise market. Instead of simply going without generative artificial intelligence, local, well-funded technology conglomerates pivoted aggressively.
They just built their own.
Within the span of just 2 years, they funded, trained, built, and scaled homegrown models that completely filled the gap left by OpenAI and Google. It is essentially a highly compressed, accelerated version of what happened with the Chinese internet behind the Great Firewall over the last 2 decades.
Where local equivalents to Google, Amazon, and Twitter rose up to dominate the domestic market.
Yes, exactly that playbook, but playing out in just 24 months.
That makes total sense when you look at it through the lens of history. Now, I want to talk about a specific statistic in this geopolitical section of the report that I found incredibly surprising. The researchers at Andreessen Horowitz built a custom index for this edition.
The per capita index.
Yeah, they didn't just look at total raw users. They combined web and mobile usage and adjusted it per capita to see which countries were actually adopting AI the fastest relative to their total population size.
It levels the playing field for smaller countries.
When you look at the top of that per capita list, it's a fascinating mix. Singapore is #1, followed by the United Arab Emirates, Hong Kong, and South Korea. Do you know where the United States ranks on that per capita adoption list?
20th.
20th. The United States, the country where OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and Meta are headquartered, the country where the venture capital is flowing, the country physically building and funding the vast majority of these Western models, is 20th in per capita consumer adoption.
It is a remarkable statistic, and it raises a vital question about the distinction between technological invention and societal integration.
They're not the same thing.
Not at all. Just because a society invents a tool does not mean its general population is the fastest to integrate it into their daily lives.
I really want to explore that. Why is there such a disconnect? I mean, picture a busy coffee shop in Singapore versus a coffee shop in Chicago.
Okay, let's picture it.
In Singapore, a local entrepreneur or student might be fluidly using 3 different AI apps on their phone to organize their commute, translate documents, and manage their business expenses. Meanwhile, in Chicago, someone might just be checking their traditional non-AI email app and scrolling a standard social feed. Why is the U.S. lagging so far behind its own inventions?
There are likely several compounding factors. First, the U.S. has older, deeply entrenched digital workflows.
We're used to doing things a certain way.
American consumers and businesses have been using established software systems for decades, and there's an inherent inertia. People are reluctant to change systems that work well enough.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Second, countries like Singapore and South Korea have vastly superior, universally accessible, mobile-first infrastructure.
Better connectivity.
Things like ubiquitous high-speed 5G, which facilitates the constant, seamless use of cloud-based AI tools. Finally, there are cultural differences regarding the eagerness to adopt automation in daily tasks.
But wait, surely the developers and the tech workers in the U.S. are using these tools constantly.
Oh, they absolutely are. The U.S. usage is massive in absolute numbers. But remember, this is a per capita metric measuring the mainstream population.
It dilutes the numbers.
Right. A developer in Silicon Valley using an AI coding assistant 8 hours a day does not offset the fact that a large portion of the broader U.S. population has yet to find a daily, indispensable use case for the technology, unlike the populations in the UAE or Hong Kong.
It's more evenly distributed there.
It is a wake-up call that inventing the tech doesn't guarantee your population is the one utilizing it to its fullest economic potential.
And it suggests that the true macroeconomic productivity gains of the AI revolution, the boost to GDP, the efficiency in services, might be felt much more acutely in these hyper-adopting nations years before they are fully realized across the broader U.S. economy.
That's a very real possibility.
Okay, let's shift gears away from the global macroeconomic map and step into the creative studio. The fourth major trend identified in this report is the massive creative AI shakeup, specifically detailing how video and voice generation are completely overthrowing the dominance of image generators.
This section of the report tells a classic technology business story, the story of rapid commoditization.
Things becoming basic features instead of magic tricks.
Precisely. If we rewind the clock to the early days of generative AI's explosion into the public consciousness, say, late 2022 to 2023, pure image generators were the absolute stars of the show.
There really were. Products like Midjourney, OpenAI's DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion. They felt like pure magic. You typed in a sentence, and 10 seconds later, you had a photorealistic image or a beautiful digital painting.
It captivated everyone.
In the September 2023 edition of this very same A16Z list, 7 of the top 9 creative web tools were image generators. Midjourney was firmly in the top 10 overall global apps,
Dominating the charts.
But when we look at this new March 2026 data, Midjourney has plummeted down the rankings to number 46. and there are only 3 pure image generators left on the entire top 100 list. What exactly happened here? Did people just get bored of generating pictures?
People didn't stop generating images. The mechanism for how they generated them changed. If we connect this to the bigger picture of software economics, it is a textbook case of the bundling effect.
Bundling, like putting it all in one package.
Yes. Image generation ceased to be a viable standalone product and simply became a standard feature.
Like how the iPhone flashlight effectively killed the entire market for standalone flashlight apps.
Precisely. Over the last year, ChatGPT integrated a highly advanced image model, GPT Image 1.5, making it incredibly powerful and seamless to use right inside the main text chat window.
So you don't even have to leave the chat.
You don't have to go anywhere else.
Mhm.
Similarly, Google released its new, highly capable image model directly into Gemini. That model was internally codenamed Nano Banana.
Let me just pause to say, of all the serious sci-fi sounding tech names out there, I absolutely love that Google went with Nano Banana.
It certainly stands out in a corporate press release.
Yeah.
And it was highly effective. The report notes that the integration of Nano Banana drove 10 million new users to Gemini in a single week.
10 million just for images.
The logic for the consumer is simple. When the general purpose, everyday chatbots you already have open in your browser suddenly offer best-in-class image generation for free, the mainstream user has absolutely zero motivation to navigate to a complex, separate platform like Midjourney.
Why bother with another login?
Right? Why manage a separate subscription and learn a separate interface?
But a few standalone tools did survive. The report mentions Leonardo and Civet AI. Why did they survive the great bundling?
Because they leaned into extreme specialization. They survived by hyper-focusing on specific, niche creative communities with highly opinionated, complex features that the general chatbots won't bother building.
So they serve the pros.
They offer granular control for professional game asset designers or dedicated digital artists. But the broad, mainstream audience, they have been thoroughly bundled into the big platforms.
And as still images got bundled away, the frontier for standalone creative excitement moved to motion. The video explosion detailed in this report is intense.
It's the fastest growing creative sector.
We are seeing massive, undeniable traction from Chinese-developed video models. Tools like Kling AI, Hailuo, and Pixverse are rocketing up the charts, and the report notes they are consistently leading in visual output quality and physics simulation.
Their models have been incredibly impressive.
But Google is fighting back hard in this specific arena. Their VO3 model is cited by researchers as the first US-developed model to truly close that quality gap with the Chinese tools, and that specific release pushed Google Labs all the way up to number 25 on the global charts.
It is important to understand why video is the new battleground. Generating high-fidelity, temporally consistent video is incredibly compute-intensive.
Way harder than a single picture.
Orders of magnitude harder. And AI has to understand physics, object permanence, and lighting over time. The rapid ascent of these video tools, despite the computational friction, shows that the consumer appetite for generated motion is absolutely ravenous.
People love video.
They do. However, the researchers highlight a very interesting, almost paradoxical anomaly in the video space.
Yes, the Sora mystery. I was waiting for this. Where is Sora?
It's the great disappearing act of the year.
For anyone who might not remember, OpenAI launched the 2.0 version of their flagship video model, Sora, as a standalone consumer app back in September 2025. It was a massive, mainstream cultural event.
Everyone was talking about it.
People could upload a photo of their face and generate incredibly realistic, fantastical videos featuring themselves. It went completely viral. The report notes it hit 1 million downloads faster than ChatGPT originally did.
Which is saying something.
It spent 20 straight days at the #1 spot on the iOS App Store. And yet, despite all that hype, it completely fell off the top mobile list for this current March 2026 edition. How does a product fall that fast?
It is a fascinating case study in the mechanics of virality versus the mechanics of long-term software utility.
So people just tried it once and left.
So exploded initially because it was an incredible novelty. But it ultimately failed to become a sticky, daily use social app. As the report astutely points out, no company has yet cracked the code of AI meets social network.
Because the consumption of the media doesn't happen inside the AI app itself.
Exactly. A user opens Sora, generates a funny or visually stunning 10-second video, and then immediately exports that file to post it on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube where their friends actually are.
The AI is just a tool, not the destination.
The AI app is treated purely as a utility factory, not a social destination. Therefore, it doesn't build the daily retention metrics required to stay at the top of these specific mobile charts.
Though, to be fair to OpenAI, we shouldn't completely write Sora off. The underlying data from Sensor Tower still indicates Sora has upwards of 3 million daily active users who are cross-publishing that generated content.
It's still a massively successful pipeline tool.
Right, so the utility is clearly there and functioning at a high level, even if the social network aspect failed to materialize.
Correct.
But while image generation is bundled and video is struggling with long-term social mechanics, the report highlights one creative sector that is holding its ground beautifully against the giants: audio.
Yes, the defensibility of audio and music generation is a key takeaway from this edition.
Tell me about Suno.
Suno is a platform which allows users to generate full, multi-track songs with vocals and instrumentation from a text prompt. It retained a very strong number 15 rank overall.
That's incredibly high.
And 11 Labs, which focuses on highly realistic voice cloning and generation, has managed to stay on every single edition of this top 100 list since 2023.
I have to ask, why is audio so much more defensible than images? Why hasn't ChatGPT or Gemini just bundled song generation and voice cloning into their chat windows to kill off Suno and 11 Labs?
It comes down to the necessity for extreme specialization and the intricacies of emotional resonance.
Meaning it's just harder to get right.
Voice cloning, dynamic audio dubbing for video, and emotional music production are incredibly nuanced, complex workflows. They require specialized user interfaces. Think multi-track timelines, pitch controls, emotional sliders.
You can't just do that with a text box.
No, you can't. They haven't been easily reduced to a simple single checkbox feature that can be slapped inside a general text chatbot yet. Music and voice require a level of fine-tuned control that currently protects these specialized companies from being casually bundled out of existence by the major platforms.
It's a great lesson for anyone building in this space. If you want to survive the gravitational pull of the AI giants, you have to find the modality that requires an interface too complex for them to bundle as an afterthought.
Find the friction that can't be smoothed over easily.
This discussion about building complex things transitions us perfectly into our next major topic. And honestly, reading this section of the report felt like stepping directly into a science fiction novel. We are talking about the era of horizontal agents.
This is arguably the most consequential shift detailed in the entire document.
It's huge.
This is where we move from observing AI as a creator of content, making pictures and text, to AI operating as an executor of actions.
To give some context, let's look at what was happening just last year. The big buzzword in 2025 was vibe coding.
We talked about that a lot.
We talked extensively on previous deep dives about tools like Cursor, Lovable, and Bolt. These were AI tools where you didn't need to know how to write complex syntax. You could just sort of explain the vibe or the function of the software you wanted in plain English, and the AI would write the code and build the app for you.
It's a huge leap forward.
It was amazing, but it was still mostly a tool utilized by developers or semi-technical people who wanted to build software.
He was still trapped in a developer environment.
This new 2026 report shows we have crossed the Rubicon. These AI agents have escaped the developer environments and are now doing things for everyday, non-technical consumers. And we have to talk about the phenomenon that is OpenClaw.
The story of OpenClaw is the ultimate Cinderella story of the current tech cycle. It perfectly encapsulates the speed at which this landscape is moving.
Let me set the scene for the listener. Picture this. An Austrian solo software developer named Peter Steinberger builds an open source project called OpenClaw in January 2026. Just a few months ago.
A very recent project.
It starts as a weekend side project. He puts it on GitHub, the platform where developers share code. Within weeks, it rockets to 68,000 GitHub stars, which is basically the developer equivalent of likes.
That's practically unheard of.
It becomes the most starred project on the entire platform, surpassing absolute foundational pillars of modern software like React and the Linux operating system.
It is massive organic growth.
I'm sorry, but I have to play the skeptic here. How does a solo developer from Austria beat Linux in popularity in a matter of weeks? What does this thing actually do that has people so captivated?
To understand the explosion of interest, you have to understand the paradigm shift in what it allows a user to do.
So, lay it out.
OpenClaw connects locally on your own device to your standard messaging applications, things like WhatsApp, Signal, or Telegram. You send it a message, exactly as you would send a text to a human assistant, and it goes off and executes multi-step complex tasks in the background for you, interacting with other apps and websites on your behalf.
Walk me through a real-world scenario. I've OpenClaw installed, I open WhatsApp, what happens next?
Imagine you are planning a business trip. You open WhatsApp and send a text to your OpenClaw contact that says, hey, I need to fly to Chicago next Thursday. Find me a direct flight under $400 that leaves after 5 p.m., book it using my saved airline miles,
Yeah.
and then block out the travel time on my Google Calendar so no one schedules a meeting while I'm in the air.
And it just does that.
Yes. OpenClaw, running locally, translates your natural language intent. It accesses the airline website, navigates the search interface, identifies the correct flight, executes the booking process, accesses your calendar API, creates the event, and then simply sends you a text back on WhatsApp saying, done. Your confirmation code is X, and your calendar is updated.
I mean, that's magic.
It is doing the clicking, the typing, and the navigating for you.
That is wild. The researchers at A16 summarize it perfectly in the report. They write, if ChatGPT was the moment consumers discovered AI could talk, OpenClaw may be the moment they discovered AI could act.
It's the perfect way to phrase it.
Now, the data does note that OpenClaw hasn't quite hit massive mainstream consumer scale yet because it currently requires some terminal knowledge to set up.
Which means you need to be comfortable opening up the command line on your computer and running a few basic scripts to get it installed, which creates a friction barrier for the average smartphone user.
Right. But the writing is clearly on the wall. The concept has been proven, and the big tech companies see the massive potential because OpenAI swooped in and acquired OpenClaw and its developer in February 2026.
That acquisition is the starting gun for the next phase of the industry.
They didn't waste any time.
No, they didn't. OpenAI buying OpenClaw signals a massive, well-funded push to take that background, task executing capability, remove the complex setup process, and make it seamless and consumer-grade for their hundreds of millions of users. But it is vital to note they are not the only ones playing aggressively in this horizontal agent space.
Not at all. Look at the other massive financial moves the report highlights in the sector. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, acquired an agent platform called Manus back in December 2025 for an estimated $2 billion.
$2 billion.
$2 billion. Then you have a company called Genspark, which just debuted on this list. The report notes they recently raised a $300 million Series B funding round and are already boasting a $100 million revenue run rate.
The money flowing into agents is staggering.
Let's do a quick translation for those of us who don't read venture capital term sheets every morning. What does a Series B and a 100 million run rate actually mean for a company like Genspark?
A Series B is essentially their second major round of institutional venture capital funding. It typically occurs when a company has moved past the experimental phase, proven their product works and has a market, and they just need a massive injection of cash to scale their operations aggressively to capture market share.
So they've proven it works.
Exactly. And a $100 million revenue run rate means that if you take their current monthly revenue and multiply it by 12, they are on a trajectory to generate $100 million a year.
Which means people are paying serious money right now to hand over complex, open-ended tasks to an AI.
Businesses are relying on it.
We are talking about deep web research, complex spreadsheet financial analysis, or generating entire multi-slide corporate presentations end-to-end, and they're just letting the Genspark agent handle the entire workflow.
This rapid development raises a critical question regarding the future architecture of the software market.
What's that?
We are currently seeing the rise of these powerful, standalone, specialized agent platforms like Manus and Genspark. But simultaneously, the general foundational LLMs, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, are frantically building their own native agentic connective tissue. They want their chat interfaces to be the ones acting on your behalf.
So we have a looming collision. Who wins that war? Does the average listener ultimately use a specialized, dedicated agent app like Genspark for their heavy-duty tasks? Or does their default ChatGPT or Claude simply gain the ability to do everything in the background, making the specialized apps obsolete?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question.
The battle to be your ultimate personal digital assistant feels like it's going to be the defining tech war of the next 12 to 18 months.
If I were analyzing the strategic board, my assessment would heavily lean toward the incumbents, the big foundational models, having a significant, perhaps insurmountable advantage.
Because they already have the users?
Not just the users. It goes back to our earlier discussion regarding context compounding. If ChatGPT or Google's Gemini already has years of accumulated context on how you prefer your emails drafted, what your daily schedule looks like, and who your key contacts are, an external, newly downloaded agent is starting at a severe informational disadvantage.
It just doesn't know you.
Regardless of how sophisticated the reasoning engine of a standalone agent is, it lacks the historical context of your digital life.
That makes a lot of sense. The incumbent has the home field advantage of knowing your data. And that dynamic actually brings us to the final major theme of the A16 report. This is the section that basically acts as a mic drop for the researchers.
It really questions everything that came before it in the document.
After detailing 100 apps, they dedicate the final pages to explaining why everything they just told us about web traffic and app downloads might be totally, fundamentally obsolete. We are entering the era of invisible AI and the death of traditional metrics.
It is a fascinating existential admission from the data analysts who compile these lists.
They're saying their own metrics are breaking down.
The report acknowledges that the very metrics they have relied on for years to gauge software success, unique web visits, and mobile app open rates, are increasingly failing to capture the most significant, high-volume AI growth happening right now.
Because the AI is actively moving beyond the boundaries of the browser tab and the app icon, let's start by looking at the browser itself.
The browser is undergoing a massive transformation.
The concept of the web browser is changing. It is no longer a passive window used to view the internet. It is the AI app. The report lists an entire cohort of new AI-native browsers that have launched in just the past 9 months.
It's a gold rush for the browser space.
OpenAI launched a browser called Atlas, where ChatGPT is natively built into the fabric of every single page you visit. Perplexity shipped a browser called Comet. The browser company, which the report notes was recently acquired by Atlassian, launched Dia.
And the legacy giants are not sitting still. They were responding aggressively to defend their turf. Google recently added Gemini directly into the core code of Chrome, and the report notes they are currently beta testing a feature internally called Disco.
Disco, what does that do?
Disco dynamically generates mini temporary web applications based on whatever specific tab you happen to have open. Anthropic has similarly integrated Claude deeply into Chrome extensions.
Wow.
The crucial shift here is that the artificial intelligence is no longer a distinct destination website you navigate to. It has become the intelligent lens through which you view and interact with the entirety of the open web.
And it goes even deeper than the browser layer. It goes right down to your computer's desktop operating system and your voice interactions. The financial success of these invisible ambient tools is staggering. Let's look at Claude Code.
This one blew my mind.
This is an agent built by Anthropic that doesn't even have a traditional graphical user interface. It just lives purely in the command line terminal for software developers. According to the report, Claude Code hit a $1 billion annualized revenue run rate in 6 months.
Just massive, massive value creation.
I want to emphasize that. $1 billion in revenue for a tool that the average person can't even see in the traditional sense. Furthermore, OpenAI's standalone Codex application, which runs quietly in the background on Mac computers assisting with tasks, has amassed 2 million weekly active users.
They're also observing this invisible trend heavily in the consumer and enterprise voice space.
Oh, the voice note takers.
Yes. The report highlights a category of tools known as voice note takers, applications like Fireflies, Fathom, and Granola.
Huh.
Collectively, they are quietly racking up over 20 million combined visitors.
20 million. And how do they work?
These tools sit completely invisibly in the background of your daily Zoom or Google Meet calls. They actively transcribe the conversation, analyze the sentiment, extract key decisions, and automatically generate action items and send them to your team.
Without you clicking anything.
You never actually open these applications in the traditional active sense. They just exist in the background, providing utility.
But the absolute deepest integrations, the ones that feel the most futuristic, are happening within the digital workspaces we already inhabit. We talked about Claude and ChatGPT being fully embedded inside Microsoft Excel, writing complex formulas and analyzing data sets without you ever leaving the spreadsheet.
Right, meeting you where you work.
But I want to focus on what Google launched in January 2026, which the report highlights as a turning point. It is a feature called Personal Intelligence. It connects their Gemini model across your entire Google ecosystem. Your Gmail, your Google Photos, your YouTube watch history, your Maps, and your search.
It's all connected.
Walk me through how this actually feels for a user. How does personal intelligence change the interaction?
It is the ultimate realization of what technologists call ambient computing. In a traditional workflow, If you were planning a trip, you would search for a hotel, open your email to find the confirmation, open Maps to find a restaurant nearby, maybe open your photos to see where you went last time.
Lots of clicking, lots of switching apps.
With personal intelligence, the assistant can proactively reference an upcoming hotel booking in your Gmail, automatically cross-reference it with your past purchase history on Google Pay to know your budget, look at your Google photo library to realize you prefer beach settings over city centers, and anticipate your itinerary needs, suggesting specific restaurants and transit options before you even type a single prompt asking for help.
It just knows.
The AI is simply there anticipating and resolving friction.
So what does this all mean for the future of technology? The A16's report concludes with this incredibly profound observation. The heaviest, most reliant AI users in the world today barely even register on traditional web tracking reports.
They are completely invisible to the old metrics.
A senior software developer spending 8 hours a day living entirely inside the Claude Code terminal, or a corporate executive who dictates every single email, memo, and text message through an ambient voice app like Whisper while walking around their office. Those people aren't visiting AI websites.
No, they are.
They aren't downloading AI apps from an app store.
The paradigm is fundamentally shifted. Artificial intelligence is transitioning from being a distinct destination that you actively choose to visit to an ambient feature that you seamlessly experience as part of your environment.
It's just around us.
And historically, when a breakthrough technology becomes a ubiquitous feature of the environment, it becomes as invisible and as indispensable as electricity. You don't think about the power plant when you flip a light switch. You just expect the room to illuminate. That is where we are heading with intelligence.
The electricity analogy is perfect. Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground today, analyzing data that touches billions of lives. Let's do a quick recap of this incredible journey through the March 2026 AI landscape.
It's been quite the ride.
We started with the core redefinition of the industry, seeing how AI has vanished into everyday tools like CapCut and Notion. We examined the sheer, unprecedented scale of ChatGPT hitting 900 million weekly users, pushing aggressively to become the internet's default super app, while Anthropic's Claude strategically dominates the high-value prosumer space.
A tale of two completely different strategies.
We looked at the map of the world, seeing how geopolitical sanctions and data localization laws have splintered the internet, creating a massive opening for deep-pocketed local players in Russia and China to build their own ecosystems.
A completely new digital geography.
And we wrestled with the surprising reality that the United States is lagging significantly behind nations like Singapore in per capita consumer adoption. We witnessed the dramatic fall of pure image generators as they got swallowed up by the big platforms, while complex video and highly emotive voice generation continue to fight for standalone relevance.
Audio holds the line.
And finally, we track the monumental evolution of AI from a chatbot you talk to into an invisible, horizontal, agent-like OpenClaw that acts on your behalf natively within your browser, your messaging apps, and your operating system.
It is a profound amount of technological and societal change compressed into just 36 months since the first edition of this list was published.
It really is staggering.
And observing this velocity leaves us with a critical structural paradigm to reconsider as we look to the future. If artificial intelligence is rapidly shifting from a destination app that you actively tap to open on your screen to an invisible ambient agent that quietly reads your emails, connects securely to your WhatsApp, and books your flights silently in the background, will the very concept of an app store or a top 100 apps list even make logical sense 3 years from now?
That is a fascinating question.
Are we currently witnessing the death of the discrete app as we have known it for the smartphone era?
It feels like we might be.
If the operating system itself becomes the sole intelligent interface, mediating all of our digital interactions through natural language and intent, the siloed individual applications we have relied on for the past 2 decades may simply dissolve, becoming nothing more than invisible legacy back-end databases serving data to our personal agents.
That is a brilliant, provocative thought for you to chew on as you go about the rest of your day. Are you looking at your smartphone screen right now and witnessing the twilight of the app era? Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the data. As you open your phone, log into your computer, or send a message later today, I encourage you to look closely at the software. Keep searching for that invisible intelligence quietly powering your daily routine. We will see you next time.